All right, so today I'm going to show you guys how to make something really, really cool. We're making more progress on the drift car today, and our fully built 2JZ is almost ready. However, there's one thing that every modified car needs. Now, whether you just have a simple street car with some light mods, or you've got an all-out race car, well, two things that everyone needs are a coolant overflow and a catch can. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to make a sweet custom catch can that fits wherever you want. Now, sometimes space is at a premium and you can't just use a universal off-the-shelf catch can, and sometimes you've changed your radiator setup to something custom, so your stock overflow is not going to work. Now, in my case, I've actually painted and cleaned up the engine bay, so I just want to make everything look a bit nicer. So what this is, and what I'm going to show you how to make, is a custom catch can and overflow that will just sit off nicely in the corner here, or you can sort of make it sit wherever you want. But the way this works is it's got half overflow and half catch can. It's sealed internally, it's baffled, and it's pretty much got all the good stuff. So something like this would probably cost you, you know, hundreds or if not thousands of dollars to buy. So you can make this yourself for not more than 50 or 60 bucks in materials. Let's get into it.
Now, I'm no fabricator, so I'm pretty much just going to be showing you how a regular Joe makes something cool like this, just out of raw materials. So all you need to make this is some aluminium sheet, some weld-on fittings, a welder, and a drill. That's pretty much it.
I haven't got the engine in yet, but I have a good idea of where I want to put it. This corner is being used for nothing. Originally, the stock battery went there, but now the battery's in the boot. So I have this free space. So what I'm thinking is I want to make a catch can that sort of sits in this free gap. And then I want to divide it in the middle, have my catch can on this side and have my coolant overflow on this side. And then I'll just simply run a line down to the radiator. So what I've done is I've made this cardboard template. Now it still needs a little bit of modification, but I sort of just cut up some shapes and it fits pretty nice in there. It'll still need a tab to hold it in place, but sort of sits like that. Originally, I actually had it the other way, but I think it looks better this way. So what I'm thinking is now, I'm gonna make this side a little bit taller so it's flat, because this is really hard to make. And then I've just got like a few random bits of off-cut aluminium, and I'm just gonna cut it all into shape and make something. So there's probably ways to baffle a catch can and make it all perfect. This is not gonna be perfect. This is just like how I think a catch can works. So I'm probably a bit delusional, but let's get into it. So first things first, I'm gonna take my cardboard model and start drawing out the shapes and converting them over to the aluminium. So I'm gonna take the tape off and then convert it to the aluminium. Now I've converted one side of my cardboard piece onto this metal piece. And now all I'm gonna do, take a marker, mark that, and that'll be the other side. The correct way to cut this is to use like a guillotine or like a bandsaw or something, but I don't have one, so we're just gonna cut it with an angle grinder. Okay, so I can obviously just cut through the whole piece, but when using a grinder, you actually contaminate the metal. So my reason for just cutting a slit and then prying it off is now this side is not really contaminated and it'll be good to weld. That's just a quick hack for my grinder game. Now, this is our main strip. And what we're gonna do is take our box, take the tape off, and we're gonna fold this piece. So I'm kind of just spitballing here and just trying things. There's no exact, I mean, there is an exact science to this, but the approach I'm taking is not an exact science. So right now it's at 150, and I think we should go at about 120. Now, same thing, I'm just gonna cut down that line with the angle grinder and break it off. In the interest of keeping this video short and sweet, I'm not gonna show every single cut that I do. Now, all I'm gonna do is take this piece, slap it on here, and then we can mark out all of our folds. All right, so do a fold there, and we'll do a cut. I'm just gonna cut all of the pieces and basically just transfer your cardboard template over to aluminium, and then we'll move on to the next step. Now that I've cut all of my pieces, it's very simple to start tacking stuff together. So what I'm gonna do is you need to figure out if you're gonna make your cuts inside. So if you look over now, if I put it on the inside, there's a few mil overhang on this side. So I've actually designed it to go on the outside, which probably wasn't the smartest thing, but it's gonna work. So I'm gonna put everything on the bench and I'm gonna start tacking it all together. Basically all I'm gonna do, slide these together and then put a tack in each corner. That way I can still adjust everything. Excuse the absolute mess on my bench, by the way. Good enough is the name of the game here. Now a plastic quick grip is definitely not the preferred tool here, but it's what I've got, so it's what we use. If there's any actual welders watching this, I'm so sorry. Alright, well I've tacked together the main box. So now I've just got to make that wall and then make the bottom. I'm going to put a plate in there and we're going to put some baffles as well. So I'm going to tack up the rest of this box and then I'll show you how we're going to do the baffles. Alright, now what we're doing here is we're making not just a catch can, it's a catch can and an overflow. So I've decided to not put the divider dead center. Obviously this side is deeper, so it's going to have more volume, and overflow doesn't really need to be that big, whereas the catch can, it does need to be, you know, a certain size so that it can catch the oil and also have free air at the top. What I've done here is I've just made a platform, and you sort of have to think about this as you weld it all together. Because if I was to weld the top in here, I'd never be able to get in here and make this a perfect seal. So what I'm gonna do is weld this piece in now, then the catch can side is basically done. And then when I weld the bottom on, I'll just do it in 2 parts, because if I just weld on one big part, there won't be a seal here and the oil and water will mix.
Sorry about the mess, but like I sort of welded in there. So now this should be a sealed chamber. Now what I'm going to do before I go any further is fill this up with water and see if any leaks out. If anything leaks out, that means I didn't do a good job somewhere with my welding and I need to fix it. But if everything seals, then that means they will stay separate forever. So let's fill it with water and see how we go. Okay, so it is all sealing now. At first there was a small leak there, but I just re-welded that area. So what we're going to do now is drain this, and then we're going to put some baffling in here and make a spot for our fittings. Okay, now in terms of fittings, we've got to think of a few things. We need to go from the catch can into the valve covers. So what I'm thinking is we take 2 -10 fittings and we'll just put them like that, and then the 2 lines can wrap up nicely around the firewall. We need a vent, so obviously the catch can is going to build up with crankcase pressure, so we've got 2 options there. Either we can put like a panel filter on the back, or like drill some holes, or we can put another fitting of some sort and just put a breather on it. And then we need to have a drain for the catch can, so obviously over time the catch can is going to get some oil in it, or maybe on the back, and then it's easily accessible. We can just take off the cap and let it drain out. And then for the overflow, we just need 1 port in at the lowest point. So what I'm thinking is we're going to put a -6 fitting like here or there, and that's going to run down to the radiator. So that's all we need to do in terms of fittings. But as this fills up with oil, hopefully it doesn't fill up and the engine's good. But if the engine does want to breathe a little bit and this does fill up with oil, we've got to make sure that the oil doesn't just slosh way back up, go up the fittings and back into the engine. So what we're going to do is put some sort of baffling system to sort of catch the oil in the air, in the vapor that comes in, and then it'll sort of drain it and keep it down low. So if we put the fittings here, we're going to put a baffle right under there to sort of guide the oil down and not let it come back up. So I'm going to do that and I'll show you what I worked out. All right, here's what I've come up with. So my 2 -10 breather fittings are going to go on this side. So what I've done is I've put this in at an angle so that the oil will sort of drip feed down and collect down that way. And then I've left a gap here so the oil can sort of pool and then fall into the main reservoir here. From what I read online, to make a catch can work as good as possible, you need some baffles to increase the surface area, which is actually going to pull the oil out of the air and sort of drip feed it down. So a lot of people are saying put steel wool or Scotch-Brite. So I'm going to stuff some Scotch-Brite in there. And the theory is that the air will come out of the catch can as vapor, collect on the Scotch-Brite, drip down here and go back into the main reservoir, where I can just drain it out of a little thing. JZs don't have inherent breathing issues, so I'm not too concerned, but I think this setup is going to work really well. Alright, so I've got my -10 fittings welded on, and I've got my baffle tacked in place. Alright, that's it. It's all welded. Now, obviously, I laid the best welds that I did of the whole day on the bottom, but that's always how it is. So this is all done now. Let's go do a recap. Perfect. It sits in there exactly as I wanted. I made a little mounting tab just so it's not freely flying around. Now, there's one major problem. Now, usually with aluminium, you want to be very meticulous with cleaning everything and making sure you're cleaning as you're going with the welds. Now, it doesn't look too bad, like the welds are pretty clean. However, when you're cutting with a grinder, it's inevitable that you're gonna mess up the welds, because once you cut with a grinder, it embeds junk into the metal and you can never get that out. So unfortunately, I knew that going into it. So the plan here is to either paint or powder coat it. But for now, that's gonna be perfect. But yeah, you can just hit it with some Scotch-Brite and give it like a brushed finish. You can leave it raw, you can polish it. You can pretty much do whatever you want now. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and I hope that I helped you make something cool for yourself.